Using free school meals as a metric of deprivation, poorer students are 4 times more likely to be permanently excluded from school. Students with special educational needs and disabilities, often referred to under the acronym of SEND, students of particular ethnic minority groups, and also students who've been in care are also overrepresented in exclusion data. So why is this? Students are often penalized for not having the correct uniform. But with increasing costs and relatively stagnant wage growth, some families simply cannot afford to buy every single item of clothing required. It is understandable that such students may be resistant to punishment, feeling that it's unfair to treat them such way purely because of their socio-economic background. However, being resistant to punishment often only leads to a further escalation in punishment, thus increasing the likelihood of exclusion down the line. Research published in 2018 by the Sutton Trust finds a disparity that exists between parents of different socio-economic backgrounds. Students from working class backgrounds are more likely to have difficulty navigating the educational system, and so do their parents. This is because in the case of an exclusion, there's a lot of paperwork and administration that it takes, and often is the case that there's a lack of understanding in how to tackle this without the appropriate help. Furthermore, the effects of poverty are only accentuated if a parent has to leave work to take care of a child that has been excluded from school. Teachers play an immensely valuable role in society, equipping students with the skills and knowledge that they need to thrive in society. And I don't only say this because a former teacher of mine is here today. Many teachers I speak to talk about the mounting pressures that they face, only further increased by the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the 2020 Royal Society of Arts report on preventing school exclusions, the significant role support staff play is highlighted, particularly in building a bond of trust with students deemed more difficult to engage with. When we talk of school exclusions, there's a tendency to focus on the most overt form, namely being kicked out of school. With some schools placing students in isolation rooms, such as this one, for up to 5 days at a time, this is a form of exclusion that does not get enough attention. Why is this? Perhaps because the data around school isolations is not as readily available as the data around exclusions and suspensions. Accepting that some forms of persistent disruptive behavior come at a detriment to the wider class, and that some students present safeguarding issues and potentially expose fellow pupils and staff to harm is fair. However, a joint effort by local authorities and schools is essential to create an environment whereby students have the best chance of success. Off-rolling is another form of exclusion that doesn't get enough attention. This is where students are removed from the school role without utilizing a permanent exclusion. This is often done in the best interests of the school and not the child. As mentioned previously, exclusion is more common amongst students with special educational needs and disabilities. 15% of pupils in England are identified as having a special educational need. However, only 20% of them have special educational needs declarations or education and healthcare plans in place which support and assist their learning. This is important to note, as a student with a special educational need without an educational health and care plan, as recently as 2019, was 4 times more likely to be excluded than a pupil with one. When looking at my own experiences, I vividly recall how tough it was starting school. Early on, I would get sent out of class for speaking out of turn, as I simply couldn't focus on what was being said. I still recall one parents' evening where my math teacher told my mum that he has a lot of potential, but he just needs to cut out the chatter. The look was one of relative disappointment, let's just say. For me, it was discovering poetry that helped me focus on school, providing a creative outlet to channel all of my energy into. I would attend after-school poetry classes and hone my talent. Spending time exploring the outdoors also helped me realize that the the classroom is not the only environment for learning. In 2016, whilst in year 10, I won a national poetry competition. And later that year, I was fortunate enough to be selected to represent London at an international poetry competition in Washington, DC. It was around this time that I stumbled across an article in a local newspaper about a boy from a very similar state school to mine that had won a scholarship to study at the prestigious Eton College, the same school attended by 19 prime ministers. I thought to myself, if he could do it, then maybe I had a chance too. I decided to print out an application form and apply. A month or so later, I received an email telling me that I'd been shortlisted. I went for the interviews, and 3 days, 3 tests, and 6 interviews later, I was on my way back home to London. After a few agonizing days of waiting, I received a letter telling me that I had received the scholarship. Not bad for a kid who used to get sent out of class. My experience attending a state school before arriving at Eton made me aware of the stark contrast in extracurricular activities, pastoral support, and access to top higher education institutions. Once arriving at Cambridge, I was inspired to work alongside a group of students to set up AIM Cambridge, an access initiative that hopes to demystify the university and provide support for students looking to apply from underrepresented ethnic backgrounds. So, back to school exclusions. What could be done to reduce them faster? First of all, we need to facilitate an environment whereby school is a place that is enjoyable for all, focusing on extracurricular activities and also nurturing students' passions and talents, whatever that might be. For me, it was poetry. For others, it may be something else. We need to ensure that creativity is not curtailed also. Secondly, we need to acknowledge that exclusions are a structural issue and that they will not be changed overnight. We need more funding for schools. Furthermore, parental input is vital. Research shows that when parents are invested in their child's education, this leads to a higher chance of educational success and reduces school exclusions. In 2006, 70% of schools offered parental support. This, in 2016, reduced to just below 50%. This is something that needs to change. Furthermore, a trauma-informed approach is needed, whereby students who've been excluded in the past are consulted upon when it comes to implementing new policy. Furthermore, students who've been excluded need to be at the heart of the debate around this issue. Furthermore, we need to explore peer mentorship. By providing younger students with trained peer mentors, this can be a great way to engage students. Furthermore, there is a lack of an authority barrier that often prevents some students from feeling comfortable engaging with teachers. Lastly, schools, governments, and educational authorities need to read the room. What does this mean? This means understanding that the way we understand behavior is vital. We need to look for the root causes and not just the way students present. Since it was poetry that helped get me back on track, I thought I'd leave you with one. This poem is titled, "I Haven't Eaten Breakfast Today." In the timeout corner again, stood at the back of the class. Unseen and unheard, I face the wall. The art of those who've gone before me, etched on the magnolia white surface. In a void world, this is the only color I see. I've come to find solace staring at the wall. It's the only thing that doesn't judge me. I'm starting to know the wall better than my friends. It knows what no one else does. It knows that the weight of my backpack is not the only load I carry when I walk into the classroom every day. I think about the future sometimes, what it might look like. I wonder if my heroes spent their days at school like this, waiting for that moment where they can turn around and be seen again. On the way home, an older guy approaches me, asking if I'm looking to make easy money. I'm not too sure what he's getting at. My friend's older brother tells me not to worry about it, just to stay in school and work hard and I'll be fine. But the truth is, I've been working hard my whole life, just to stay alive. Like the wind, my mind wanders. I haven't eaten breakfast today, so it's hard to concentrate. I find myself in conversation with the wall again. I get creative this time. T was here. I slowly etch, taking my time with each letter. Finally acknowledged, finally immortalized. I get sent home for the day. I don't go back the next. I'm tired of staring at the wall. I know everything that there is to know about it. A letter comes home from school to say that I've been suspended. At least it's not from the bailiffs this time. The first day I spend at home, quickly, I go tired of staring at my walls. The next day I spend walking around the area. An older guy approaches asking if I'm looking to make easy money. I don't know what he's getting at, but I think I have an idea. Then I think about what my friend's older brother told me, but I haven't eaten breakfast today. T was here, but no longer is.